Okay, there's that. And now I'm going to put us on. Should we go live on YouTube as well or just Facebook?
Why not? If it does
Okay.
it, I'm just thinking anything that might attract more
Well,
viewership.
let's see what we can do here.
And you said my sound is still good, right?
Oh, it's perfect, man. Okay, go
I
live.
got that this meeting is being recorded.
Uh-huh. Let's see what happens here. Preparing to live stream the meeting. Okay, got it.
Okay, got that too.
And I'm also going to share it to your page
Yeah, do
and to
that.
a Christian and a Muslim, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Much better, actually.
Okay. Um, share.
It's amazing our first podcast back is on it's such a historic
Well, it
moment.
is what it is, huh? I mean, we had to do it.
Oh, obviously, I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, I hear you. No, I hear you.
Colin Kaepernick or Trump right now, or something, but it's to me it's far more
Oh,
existential.
this is affecting the whole world.
Yeah, although ironically, it helps Trump
It
tremendously.
really does. The more craziness that's on the in the midst of this, yeah, yeah, exactly. Let me see what else I got here. There's that. And
Yeah, I see us. We're live on. Yeah, you got us on Facebook already.
yep, I'm gonna try now to share to the page, Christian and Muslim. Let's see here.
Look at the page here. Whatever it is you're doing.
Folks, if you can see us, be patient. We are getting this thing shared all over creation. This is what we always do. We are not professional podcasters. We don't have opening titles. We don't have fancy music. But we do have some pretty good dialogue. So
And hopefully some pretty beneficial content.
absolutely. Let's see here. Why is it not letting me? For some reason, this is not letting me get to a Christian and Muslim.
Hmm.
Hold on here. One more thing. Share now. Copy link. I don't know what's going on here.
Just not going to a Muslim and a Christian, but is it on your page and my page?
It's on my page and your page, but we need to.
Yeah, it should. It should be.
We should be going to Christian and Muslim as well. So let me see what I can do here. Okay. Nope, that's not going to work. I don't know why it's not letting me get there. Share to a group, share to a feed,
Yeah,
share to group.
our feed. Yeah, feed. One of your feeds should be a Christian or Muslim. Yeah,
Nope, it's taking me to my own personal feed, so that's not going to do it either. Guys, bear with us. We're almost there, I promise you. Let's see here. Share to a group. Come on now, why is that not working? In the meantime, let me get us going to YouTube. Oh, it's not going to let us do YouTube at the same time, so we're fine.
okay, let's just do YouTube then. And
Yeah,
then
let's.
we can eventually move it over to
Yeah,
Christian.
I'll move it onto YouTube.
YouTube or Muslim and Christian. Which one are you gonna? So right now it's on all of our Facebook pages.
It's on mine and yours, and I think that might be all we can do at this point.
Okay, so YouTube and Christian and Muslim both they're not take you can't take those right now.
No,
You could just
no.
add those later.
Yeah, I'll just take the finished video and stick it onto Christian and
Technically,
Muslim.
we'll go live, and then on those pages they'll be recorded.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, all right, Emad,
Sure.
it's good to see you, bud.
Hey man, let me. There it is. Okay, It's great. It's great to see you. It was great to see you last week.
Yep.
It was good, and it's good to see you today, healthy and happy. And some of the family things you shared with me, I'm really happy for you about that, with Danette and everything. And then here, all is well too.
Yeah. So for those of you who are watching who wonder what that's about, Danette is retiring in June. We are really old. She's been a school
You're actually
teacher.
retiring young.
Huh?
You're both young. You're
Yeah,
both
we
young.
are. Yeah. Later 60s. What are you going to do? And Danette has been teaching in the public school system up in Shafter, California, mostly migrant kids, which was her heart. Um, she's had quite a few Muslim kids over the years, by the way. There's a
You're,
Muslim
you're
community.
a heart couple. You
Yeah,
guys are
there's an Islamic community in Shafter. And
sure.
so she's had them as well, but she is going to step away. And it's been an ordeal getting to this point, but here we are. Um,
If I can add
but
one,
go
you
ahead.
had medical challenges, and
Oh,
so
sure. I don't want to talk about that stuff, but yeah, I
hold on.
have.
I mean, but that's you've earned this hopefully next phase of your lives,
I
and
hope so. Oh man, I don't plan I don't plan on retiring Ahmad.
I
You know
know that.
me.
I
You
just
know
said
me.
you're not going anywhere, but I mean, she needs. I think this is good for the net. I think it's good for both of you.
She's tired. The climate has changed. It's very difficult to be a teacher these days. Much more
God bless her
difficult than
for all that she's done for all those kids, and
it's been
then
good.
and yes, the system's going to lose a wonderful teacher.
Oh, they really are. They have no idea.
Yeah, but she's
Um,
earned her right to be home and
and
to
then
be.
the other thing that is, I'm a pet dad. We have dogs, 3 dogs. We have some feral cats. We live next to an abandoned oil field, and so people come and dump their unwanted cats. And I have a rule, Ahmad. If an animal makes its way to my door, it's going to find some love. It's going to find some food. It's going to find what it needs. It's just the way it goes. And so
I
there's
honor it. I think it's a beautiful thing that you do that. And I told you we have teaching in our faith that just feeding an animal can go a long ways with God. You know.
well, I know that he sees, and I know he cares for these little ones as well. And so there is one little cat that showed up about 8 or 9 months ago. I named it Cray Cray because it did not have half of its fur was gone. It was near death, and somebody dumped it, and so it made its way over here, and I started putting food out, and it started coming around, and pretty soon it just started hanging out with us, and the fur started growing back. It started getting a little healthier, but this morning I hear my dogs barking in the backyard, and that cat is laying there dying in my backyard. So um, I had to get the dogs out of there. They weren't going to hurt it, but they were annoying.
Yeah.
And I grabbed a towel and picked the little cat up and brought it out to a better place for it to be, and so that it wouldn't be bothered. So my heart is a little bit tender today. My heart is tender. You know me though. This is me. That story is me on a plate because my heart is tender towards the broken, the misunderstood, and the cast off. Always.
I agree.
And that kind of leads us in to some of the stuff we're going to talk about today because there's this crazy. Have you heard about this crazy thing going on over in the Middle East, Ahmad?
Just a little bit, just a little bit. I have. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Um, I have, Bob. I have. As a matter of fact, sometimes there's some tension with me and my family because I can't turn it off. I cannot turn it off. I feel like we've entered a new era,
Yeah, we
and
have.
and
Why? Yeah, so tell me why it's a new era. Why is this different from 1967? Why is this different from other things that we've seen?
1967 was huge. 1967 was a big deal because for a lot of Jews and a lot of Christians, it was solid proof, that everything that they had hoped God intended manifested when the state of Israel took over all of the land from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. And I think that that was the first promise in Isaac, you know, and and I think they felt that was the affirmation, right? That this was meant to be scripturally in a very positive way. It depends how you see this.
Right.
And so 1967 was huge. It was a big deal, and I think that it some Israelis, some Jews, some Zionists, as it were, looked at that and said, they never wanted to relinquish now any of that, including Jerusalem. And so I think that started that phase and solidified in 1973
Right.
after the war with Egypt and Jordan. Were just trying to get their territory back. They didn't go into any of that occupied land. But again, that was significant because Likud then generated its party platform, its charter, if you will, that exists, never been changed, which is Jewish sovereignty from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean. And I know we always hear about Hamas, 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 and all that, and I get it, but Likud is in charge. They've been ruling mostly throughout the last couple of decades, few decades. They've been really the one party that has been mostly ruling in Israel, and their charter, it's manifesting. It's clearly manifesting. I mean, they are actually making it happen, and that I think we can get into today. But yes, what was the question again? The question was why, right? Is it
Yeah, well,
really
you said it feels different and it feels like we've entered a new season in this. And so I'm just asking what's different about it and what's new.
okay? So the point isn't just a new era for Jerusalem or a new era for, greater Israel, greater Palestine, whatever you want to think. The new era is a new era for the earth. It's a new era for humanity. It's a new era for all of us.
Right.
And I think it's because 10/7 happened, which whatever you believe about it, the conspiracy theories aside, the clear, things that were reported, what the IDF says happened, whatever other people say happened, what Hamas says happened. The point is that my belief is that Israel, though again, certain folks in Israel that happen to have the power right now, and their ideology, in some cases their theology, they are moving forward now with this plan for Jewish sovereignty from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean. And some of them have been pretty extreme in what they would like to happen. And I'm talking, from the prime minister to cabinet members to members of the media to Israeli soldiers to others have been very clear, that about what they want. Settlers. There are settlers now in the IDF. There are settler commanders. There are settler generals. And they have pretty interesting perspective on how they see Gaza and the West Bank and East Jerusalem. And this is not like, oh, let's share it. And I think because of that reality that 10/7 was you could look at it as, oh, it was an accident, it happened, Israel didn't know what was going on, and boom, now they got to destroy all of Gaza. Or you can look at it as, they kind of had a pretty good feel for what was going on, and they needed that, allowance or that license to move forward and implement their plan. And so I'm a believer of the second version, and the reason I say that is because they are clearly implementing their plan. And what it's done, Bob, is it's created this really interesting world, and that is that the global South versus the industrialized Western nations that are backing Israel. Everybody else sees it as this is clearly crazy. This is a broad daylight genocide. And every industrialized Western nation, first world Western nation, is saying, no, it isn't. We don't care what you say. It just isn't, And so the case we know that's going on with the ICJ by South Africa against Israel, every
Right.
Western nation is lined up with Israel, and most of everybody else is lined up with South Africa. And so why this is significant is because a lot of people took off the mask. Okay, or the mask just got taken off, Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, in power, you're supporting Israel. Whether you're a Canada or you're Belgium, you're supporting Israel. And if you're the if you're the Arab League or if you're the Muslim, the 57 Muslim nations, you've signed on by force and all through their hypocrisy by force with South Africa's case against Israel. And then you look at the people. There's a divide, obviously. I think the majority of the people are with the Palestinian cause, and but you have this divide again, and it's a major divide. And so I think we're drawing lines, and I think we're really at a point now where the polarization is extreme,
I
hateful,
agree. I agree.
um, and I don't want to get in too deep, so let's move on. But I can give you a few other factors as to why I think this is a new era. Last thing I'll say this: Israel clearly is trying to stoke some tensions in the Middle East, and others are participating as well. Iran and now Pakistan, and of course you've got the Houthis in Yemen, and you've got Lebanon and Syria, and Turkey's factoring in, and so on. In Saudi Arabia and the Gulf, that's a whole other way of how they factor in. But this is getting interesting, Bob. It's getting interesting, and it's quite worrisome.
Well, here we are. Here we are. And uh, you you were born in Kuwait, but
Yeah,
you often have identified yourself as Palestinian.
I'm Palestinian on my mother's side. My mother's
Right.
father is Palestinian. Obviously, her mother and father both are Palestinian. She's a full-blood Palestinian, born in Jerusalem, Abu Dis, which is right outside of Jerusalem. Grew up there, and then all that happened, and some of the first resistance was under my uncles. They were involved in heavily early on. This is just before the PLO and all that kind of stuff got
Right.
going. A real resistance. It was not, nothing terrorism, none of that BS. It was just all, it was real resistance to, Israeli sovereignty, and from 1948. This all started in 1948. Really under the British mandate from 1917 to 1948. The Palestinians that were living there started, first they were very welcoming to Jews that were coming in, European Jews, but then eventually they started realizing there was a Zionist plot. There was a manifestation of something that Balfour had signed, for Rothschild and for Lord Rothschild, and Balfour came up with this Balfour Declaration, and then that migration from Europe before the Holocaust started. And eventually, Palestinians figured it out, and they started to resist. The Zionists that were there also were putting a lot of pressure on the Brits to move on the Balfour Declaration, and so they started to resist, and there was violence from both sides. There were a few terrorist organizations that the Jewish side created, quite frankly, and they did do some serious damage to British peace, and the Brits were forced to finally pull out. But before they did that, they trained the Jews, they armed the Jews, or the Zionists. They did everything they could to make sure that they were ready to fight the Arab villagers and to create the first Nakba, which is
Sure.
it's after. And so yeah, Bob, it's crazy that the entire world has to go back to this one place and everything has to start from there
Isn't
again.
it something that's like the flashpoint of everything?
Yeah,
So,
and
so ask me what I'm seeing.
go ahead, say again.
Ask me what I'm seeing.
What are you seeing? I'm sorry, you're asking me, so obviously, and we understand my perspective being an
We
Arab,
do.
being a Palestinian on my mother's side, being Muslim, being Kuwaiti, or Khaliji, or
Right.
of course. But your perspective is that, you're a member of a faith of 2 billion,
Great.
Christianity as a whole, right? And then there's this connection now with Israel and with the Jews. And so what are you thinking about all this?
Yeah, this is yeah, I was, from the time I was 10 years old, was in evangelical churches. Um, and so this was the
Was that
message.
before World War I or after?
See, I'm not even going to flip you off, which is what I want to do,
No, let's
because
keep
it's
it.
a Christian and a Muslim walk into a studio.
It was after World War I. I got
All
you.
right. All right. Um, I went to Bible college. I was a pastor. I've been in and out of ministry my whole life. Um, and so yeah, that's where I identify. Um, and yeah, just like 2 billion Christians on the earth that identify that way. Trust me, not all of them are. Just like not everyone who calls himself a Muslim is a Muslim. practicing at least.
Practicing Muslim.
Yeah, the number is way smaller. And I remember hearing messages in 1967 because that's when I first started going to church. I remember, and that's when I really started paying attention to the news was mid 60s, 66, 67, 68. That's when I started to dial in as a boy. Um,
Pretty young. That's pretty young
and no,
considering.
I was an odd kid. I watched the 1968 Democratic Convention
Wow.
in my bedroom when I was 11 years old. Right.
Right.
Right. My uncle was staying with us and he had a little black and white TV and he worked at night. So I just go in my bedroom and watch TV because he was staying in my room.
So politics and religion at that age were already interesting to you.
I was already in. And so I was seeing what I saw and consuming what I was consuming and trying to be aware of my world around me. Yeah, I was that kid that for fun read the encyclopedias front to back
Hmm.
several times as a boy. What else are you going to do? There was no internet, there was nothing to do. So I just read encyclopedias.
Play, get a ball or something and go out and play. You know,
Oh, I did that sometimes. Sometimes I was an athlete. What are you going to do? Um,
you had other things interested you.
sure.
More important subjects mattered to you even at a young age.
What's that?
More
Yes.
important
Yeah.
subjects,
It did.
relevant
It
subjects.
drew me. I was drawn in. For some reason I was able to understand and comprehend some things that probably most little ones can't, young ones. But I do know that as I continued down the road of evangelicalism and especially fundamentalism, there was there was this thing that I always heard, constant chatter that Israel chosen. Um, some of the circles I ran in said that even the United States was chosen, and that we play a part. And there's this. I don't know if you ever heard of British Israelism. That was happening around me as a boy, as a young man. So I encountered some of that. I never bought into it, but
Well, if it wasn't for British Zionists, this never would have happened.
I agree. I agree. Um, but let me make something very clear, very, very clear for the people watching. And if you want to turn it off after I say this, God bless you. It's okay. You don't have to agree with me. Uh, I don't see modern day Israel, especially in its current incarnation run by Benjamin Netanyahu and his cronies, um, as anything different than anybody else on this earth. I don't. I don't see the spiritual component. I do not ascribe to them those things that I was taught when I was a kid. Um, and trust me when I tell you, we were indoctrinated. I mean,
Yeah,
I am not surprised at the anger that I'm seeing towards the Arab world right now from the church because we were told all the way through that this was coming. A war is coming.
yeah.
A war is coming. A couple of small things that really irritated me, or at least caused questions to go off in my head. One of them is that I believe it's been reported as a 7 hour gap uh, on October 7th from the time that they knew about it to the time that they did anything. And supposedly they knew about this plan for a year in advance. And I'm talking about Israel, knowing that Hamas was coming. Uh, I'm not I'm not in people's hearts, but it sure seems on from the outside looking in that they may have wanted some of this. You and I have talked before that Israel has been propped, or Hamas over the years has been propped up by Israel and by the United States. There's a reason.
Especially
There,
Netanyahu.
there, there's a reason. We need a common enemy. We need somebody to hate. And so,
You remember Al Qaeda? You remember, Al Qaeda? You remember ISIS?
yes,
Al Qaeda. I mean, my God, the involvement that we had in that group. It's
we
unbelievable.
wouldn't know what to do with ourselves without a bad guy, without
Well,
someone to throw our hatred at. But let me continue this. Let me let me tell you something I see, because you mentioned something that was very key to me. I do think we're in a season on the earth, a season from God, from heaven. You mentioned that masks are being removed and we're seeing people for who they really are. Well, guess what? Masks are being removed in every facet of this society, of every facet in every corner of this planet.
It's,
Uh,
it's because
I'm dealing with church folks right now where there are, I mean, there there is now, we're now hearing about rampant sexual abuse that has happened at pretty famous places, that has kind of, and as someone who walked down that road with one of my daughters, and knowing how an organization treated me with threats, um, it's very easy for me to imagine that some of this has been swept under the rug, but they can't sweep it under the rug anymore because it's out in the open. We are seeing the political world unmasked 100%. We
and
know
it's
who people are.
and it's influence from the the financial centers of the world and the financial.
Absolutely. We're seeing people go to prison in the entertainment world for things like rape. Harvey Weinstein comes to mind, and others who have, that kid that was on that '70s show that is now in prison. Um, Things are just coming to the surface. Things that were hidden are coming into the light. And here's what I believe, Ahmad, and I believe the Lord showed this to me, but that's for others to determine. Uh, I believe that we are in a season of apocalypse, and you and I have talked a little bit about this. Apocalypse does not mean disaster or catastrophe. It is a Latin word that simply means the uncovering or the unveiling, secret things being made hidden, and they are all being made hidden. We are seeing who Israel is, if we have eyes to see.
Made apparent?
What's that?
You mean being made apparent or
Yeah,
hidden?
it's being made apparent, and anyone for real, and I mean anyone, capital A, with eyes to see and ears to hear. So that means a lot of people will not see this because they don't have eyes to see and ears to hear. John 8,
Unfortunately.
John 8 tells us that when Jesus confronted the leaders and said, he didn't tell them that they were refusing to see. He said it's impossible. You cannot, because you're blinded and you're deaf. And so we see this on the earth. Now, I believe there's another season coming after this one. And I believe it's going to be a season of reconciliation and healing. And I am here for that. But we've got to get through this one first. And so if today's podcast allows somebody to look through a slightly different lens at what's happening in the Middle East, then we've done our job, Ahmad.
How?
I we don't want to throw all of Israel under the bus. I mean, you would not sit here and say that all Jews are Zionists, would you?
No, so, let me balance your statement because you made, I appreciate what you just stated about Israel, Netanyahu, and Likud, right? And that
Yes.
you see this current iteration as anything different, more special than anybody else. Let me then say, early on in the days that Al Qaeda was being formed and Osama bin Laden was getting his name, I was pretty quick to condemn it. Okay, I didn't like some of our covert ops and how they manifested them, so how they and entertained these groups, what they did with these groups and whatnot. And I had a little bit of my own experiences with some of that crap. And
Right.
then when ISIS came on the scene, I was just instantly identified that this group was rogue and bad and something odd and created in a way that didn't make any sense to me. And I immediately started speaking very harshly about them. And I even got, AMJA in North America to issue a fatwa against them, if you recall that. Okay.
Yes. Oh, yes, I remember.
I mean, that's talking in house with my people,
Yes.
not in broad daylight, behind the scenes, right? Saying, what the hell's going on? I don't see a fatwa about this rogue.
Hey. Watch your language.
Did I say something bad? Okay. So there was Al Qaeda. My stance on them were very quickly. There was ISIS. I'm not going to get into all these terrorist groups, whatever they're Muslim or Christian or Catholic. I don't care right
Right.
now, Buddhist or Hindu or anybody else. I'm just mentioning the ones that the world has heard so much about in the Islam, with the Muslims, right? And Israel
Right.
has Netanyahu's Israel has really, really worked hard to make sure everybody knows that that's Islam. Okay, so clearly ISIS, where are they? They're just another, world. This is one of these creations that just died off. Al Qaeda died off. Islam is still here. 2 billion Muslims are still around. Well, Hamas now. We come to Hamas. Okay, let's put Hezbollah aside because that's a Shiite group. They're a minority. I'm not. You know me. I believe that Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah is what is correct, and that we are on the religion of the three righteous generations after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But the Prophet did say, Bob. He said that in these days, the truth will appear as falsehood, and a falsehood will appear as truth. Okay, and unfortunately, people are even telling us that. Like, don't believe what your eyes see, don't believe what your ears hear. Just
Right.
believe me. I'm going to lie to you, and that's going to be truth, right? And power speaks truth so repetitively that eventually, I mean, sorry, they speak falsehood repetitively until it becomes truth. You know,
Right. Right.
and there were some interesting people. One was a Palestinian who said that. But anyway, not to lose my train of thought, and I just did. Um,
You are so old.
where was I?
Sorry.
I just my mind detoured. Sorry. Oh yeah. So getting to Hamas. Okay. Now, from the time that Hamas first started launching rockets, now of course Israel's creation of this whole idea that they pulled out their settlements and everything out of Gaza and they left this beautiful country for these people just to, to flourish and all that is a big bunch of BS and a bunch of lies, and everybody knows it knows the situation. You can go and really look into it, listen to some smart people that are experts in this area, and they understand that it was a full blockade, a siege. They controlled everything in Gaza. They just pulled their people out of there, okay? And they made sure that Gaza didn't thrive, and they were, that's why they could turn off the water and the fuel and the food, and you know what I mean? That's why they can do that, because they control the entire strip.
Blockade the port.
It's a blockade, and it's been a blockade since its inception. And of course,
Yes.
once Hamas was voted in, the one election that they had, it was less than 50% of the people. Most of these kids weren't even alive at that time. That are being butchered. From that point on, the U.S. and Israel, completely just shut down that area, and so they couldn't thrive. This idea that they could thrive and they could have built things, and all they built was tunnels, is all a bunch of BS. Okay, now putting that aside, Hamas, I'm not a fan. And the reason I say that is I'm not challenging any of the foot soldiers. I'm sure a lot of them, they're following orders, trying to fight off this aggressor. And the precursor to this, of course, is because it's under siege, because it's under a blockade, because Israel's illegally doing that. If you resist, you're the one that's in self-defense, not Israel. Israel, according to international law, is not in self-defense, even if Hamas crosses over the fence, okay?
Right.
So they're just not, because this is territory they occupy, they control, they've got complete control of this territory. And the international community has been trying to tell them, you can't do that. Just like in the West Bank, you can't do that. Well, you've got the entire place, completely controlled. Your soldiers are on the ground, you're building settlements, and then when the Palestinians resist, they're terrorists, you know what I mean? And you brutalize them. So you're never in a position of self-defense if you're in an illegal occupation, illegal besiegement, illegal blockade. Okay, now, so that being said, okay, I am not a fan of Hamas leadership. There's something terribly wrong there. Just like you're talking about the 7-hour gap, or Israel had foreknowledge. You had some Israeli female soldiers who were seeing activity on the ground, trying to report to their senior officers, their command, and they were telling them to shut up. These two ladies, at least I know one of them died and one of them was injured. So there was intentional disregard of what was going on, okay, on the other side. Intentional disregard. But there was also orders from Hamas leadership for them to do that. And of course, the first question, once they breached those fences and the tractors went over and the trucks went over and these little air gliders, Israel calls it a land, sea, and air invasion. They have no military. I mean, they don't have a single tank. They don't have a single boat, and they don't have a single jet fighter, okay? But they still call it a land, sea, and air invasion because they came up on hand gliders, supposedly. So anyway, my point in all that is you stated something very interesting, but I'm also wondering, when it first happened, like, what's the objective, Hamas leaders? What's the objective here? You did all this to grab some hostages, but how are you going to defend your people? Now you've just unleashed for the 5th or 6th time this beast of an army on the Gazan civilians, the most densely populated place on earth, nowhere for them to hide. Half of them are children. 70% are women and children. Where are they going to go? And what are you going to do to defend them? What was your plan? Why do this, right?
Right.
So there was no sense to it, no logic. People are going to say the Abraham Accords, they're going to say this and that and the other, and for me, it's all a bunch of BS, because the reason I say that is weeks into this situation, while the Palestinians were being butchered by Israel in mass, and Gaza was being flattened, you had Hamas leader come out and say, we're going to give them multiple 10-7s and we're going to wipe Israel off the map. They have used that statement. Netanyahu, the Israeli government, governments in the West, Biden's administration, and in the ICJ court, they have used that statement. So not only did you give them 10-7 to take Gaza and slaughter everybody and flatten it, but then you gave them the talking points that they want to continue to slaughter Gazans and continue their operation and get all the diplomatic cover they need for it. So I remember that morning, I was enraged. I was yelling.
Well, do you
Just
see,
finish this last part.
hold on, do you see the
Bring this
connection?
guy.
Hold on. That's like bulletin board material, isn't it? Like
Yes.
for a football team. You
Yes.
don't want to say,
It's more than that. It's a license to kill, because all they got to say
of
is,
course.
they said it. They want to wipe us off the map. They're going to give us 10-7s. Now, if you're a leader, while your people are being slaughtered, butchered, decimated, and the area is being decimated, Bob, decimated, you don't talk brashly. You don't give your enemy what they want. You don't give them not only bulletin board material, but diplomatic cover to not only say we were right to do what we did, but we can continue to do what we're doing. That, for me, I don't understand that, so I don't trust that person. I don't trust that Hamas leader. I don't care who out there, my family, friends, all of you, pissed off at me about this, so be it. I don't trust the guy, okay? And I don't like what they did, and I don't like the fact that Palestinian civilians are on the ground being slaughtered in mass.
No.
At some point, there's got to be a give up the hostages, surrender to the international body, but you got to stop the slaughtering and the decimation.
We've got to have a ceasefire as of
Right.
immediately.
But I'm trying to say something. I'm trying to say that the same way you went after the Netanyahu Likud regime, I'm going after Hamas leadership.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm not talking about the guys on the ground, because they're just falling. Looks like a lot of his.
I get it. But Emad, this isn't just Hamas. This is those kinds of statements. We want to wipe Jews off the face of the earth have come from places like Iran. It's come from other corners of the Arab world. What do you say to that?
Bob, ironically, Iran is bombing, Pakistan and other places, but they're not bombing Israel.
I understand, but what do you say to those statements?
To me, they're meaningless. You know what?
But to a Jew, they're not meaningless.
Right. So I'll give you the counter. The counter is, what do you say when, for the last 25 years, from Netanyahu, Sharon, and everybody else, asking America to go to war with Iran? How do you think Iranians look at that? Oh, that's great. You're asking the world superpower to go to war. Until to this day, they're still asking them to go to war. They're actually, in a way, trying to instigate that war. Okay.
Right.
So, we can keep talking about these statements, that these talking heads that are
right.
People that are liars, okay, are stating, just like that Hamas leader. He knows he can't wipe Israel off the map. He knows that. He knows that's just garbage talk. That is giving Netanyahu and the Biden administration everything they want to execute this war, to prosecute this war in a manner that is decimating the civilian population. So who is this guy? Why is he saying things like that? This isn't how the Prophet Muhammad talks. This isn't, peace be upon him. This isn't how Islam teaches us to talk. You don't talk about slaughtering all the civilians. You don't do that. So what's he doing? Where's he getting that garbage from? The same way when you're talking about some Iranian guy, or somebody over here or somebody over there. What is this? What are we doing? Israel's been saying things that they are implementing and getting done. Okay? Getting done. They've gotten America to fight a lot of wars against Muslims. And I'll ask you this, Bob. How many Arabs and Muslims have died in these wars compared to the Jews that have died?
Okay, so here's, and you and I have talked about this privately. We actually met last week, full disclosure, and talked through some of this. But the truth is, while I cannot excuse actions, I can at least have an understanding and empathy. I mean, guys, if you're watching this, that's what we need to do. We've got to be able to look at these things through. We've got to be able to look at these things through a rational lens. We've got to be able to say, All right, it's an inexcusable act, but I understand what led us to this moment. When the Twin Towers fell, I mean, Bill Maher lost his job for saying, don't call them cowards. They lost their lives for a cause that they desperately believed in. Now they had been brainwashed into it, but they believed it. And I understand why those things happen because
The question is who brainwashed them. Let me tell you what I said.
no, 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 no. Let me go for a minute. Let me go for a minute. So yeah, we can talk about who brainwashed and who didn't brainwash and all that. I understand where you're going. However, it does not excuse the devastation. What happened on 10/7? I don't I can't excuse that behavior. Some of the stories that we have read, and you now hold on. You immediately came out of the gate with conspiracy theories, and I'm telling you, there's some truth in it. I know some of it is exaggerated, but Ahmad, not all of it. It was
You need to go read
hold on. Let me just finish, and then
read them.
I'll let you come at me. I'll let you come at me. It was absolutely brutal, and so
I can't.
but hold on. But I have empathy, and I can understand people that are at the end of their rope saying enough. I had an opportunity to teach a class at a college in Texas. There was a woman in there who was uh, from Jerusalem, but she was Palestinian, and that it's Amarillo, Texas. That's the most conservative county in America, maybe for real. And so uh, she's sitting there among her constituents, other people that are at that college, and I could see walls breaking down as she told her story, as she told how she was treated for not being an Israeli Jew. She was a Palestinian who happened to live in Israel. And so here we go with this. And so I have this understanding of the anger that people carry. Uh, but part of this comes back, Ahmad, to an age-old thing that you and I will never be able to see eye to eye on this, and that is the value of vengeance. I the Bible, the Christian Bible does not teach vengeance. Um, the Islamic teachings,
Maybe the Jewish Bible does.
yeah, it probably does. It probably does, but Jesus gave a different word. And so vengeance does not belong to me. It is not my job to take people out. It's not my job. Now, it's my job to defend my family, and I understand that. I get it. Uh, but at the same time, here we are. The horse is out of the barn. People are up in arms. There's blind hatred. And guys, we got to let that go. We've got to let that hatred go. We've got to begin to see things through a different lens. And we've got to believe that there's hope. Right now, nobody believes there's hope. There are Christians that want this to keep going so that it ushers in the second coming. You've got to understand the implications of what we're seeing, because there are people that firmly believe that we have to go further so that Jesus can return. That's their eschatology.
Right.
And
Their eschatology is that a bunch of people have to be murdered,
yep,
slaughtered,
yep.
children, babies on incubators, so that Jesus can come.
Yeah,
But
and so, but when they believe that, Ahmad, when they believe that, then what happens is hope goes out the window.
right,
Hope
but
goes
what's worse,
completely
Bob?
out the
What's
window.
worse? What's worse? Christians believing that mass slaughter of Muslims and Arabs, mass slaughter, mass. I mean, it could be billions. They'd be all right with it. What's worse, that, right? That, or
Right,
somebody who was hardened because of a bunch of oppression over decades and
right.
decided to go out and shoot some people? Which one is worse? A bunch
I
of
hear you.
Christians in their homes have a nice, turkey dinner, going, man, I wish more of these Palestinian kids would be slaughtered. What's worse? I mean, we got to get real. We got to get real. We got to stop looking at ourselves and looking at brown, Muslim, whatever, as all these animals. You know what I mean? We need to stop that shit. Excuse my language. So let me tell you what you left out. Okay, when you mentioned what happened on 10/7, there's a lot of things that aren't being mentioned. Okay, one, you brought it up. If Netanyahu admitted in 2019 propping up and funding Hamas, and they want us to believe they're the worst, people on the planet Earth have ever seen, then maybe Netanyahu needs to be accounted for, right? What the heck? Him and his guys, and what? I mean, you
Hello.
funded them?
We
You
don't
prop-
disagree. We do
Okay,
not disagree.
one, two. You know that one of the families that their home got destroyed by Israeli tanks because a settler colonel or general ordered the destruction, are trying to get answers for why their people were decimated, their family, okay, from an Israeli tank, from an Israeli commander saying, hit it, okay? So Apache helicopters, tanks, a lot of the people, this is a fact that Israel butchered a lot of Israelis, okay? So we got the story from the IDF that the Palestinians did everything, including cutting off babies' heads. No proof, not a shred of proof. They did some things, I believe that for sure. But then you got these real stories of the IDF coming in and decimating everybody. Okay, a lot of these houses look like they were real weaponry, not little AK-47s or little rocket handheld grenades. This was like tank and Apache helicopter top fire, and nobody's talking about it except Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper out there. Okay, and they've proven it's true, and others have proven it's true. And now you got Israeli families saying, "What's up?" And then you got Israeli family about the hostages, like, you guys are carpet bombing Gaza. I mean, thank God Hamas soldiers are taking care of the hostages, because otherwise they'll all be slaughtered. You got 3 Israeli hostages that came out with shirtless with white flags, Bob, and the Israelis shot them dead, thinking they were Palestinians. You got a grandmother walking with a white flag with her grandson in broad daylight, and they shot her dead. And people aren't talking about that. That's not terrorism. We're going to talk about terrorism and not talk about that terrorism. The terrorism against the Israeli hostages, or the two Christians standing in front, 2 Christian ladies in broad daylight standing in front of a church getting shot by Israeli snipers. The Pope called it terrorism. Okay, Bob, please, we
hear you.
have to be real. We have to be real here. Now, the one part you're left out is we're all mad. We're wondering what's going on. You're leaving out that liars lie, deceivers deceive.
Of course they do. Let me make a point.
Power lies, Bob. Power and money lies to us. They lie so much to us that we start to believe their lies. And that's what we're here to try to break down, is the lies. So permit me one thing.
Hold on. Let me interject. Let me interject one thing.
You can talk.
Let me interject one thing. Just one thing. There were people in our government on 9/11 that, and I don't believe it was an inside job. I don't believe all the conspiracy theories and whatnot. I just don't. However, I think that there were some within our government and other Western governments who were like, finally, we have a reason. They didn't find any weapons of mass destruction when they investigated Iraq, but they went anyway because of people named Dick Cheney, people named Donald Rumsfeld, and people named George W. Bush. Those people were pushing an agenda. Now, I happen to think that Bush was a pretty good guy. I do. But I couldn't say that about Donald Rumsfeld, and I'm not sure I could say that about Dick Cheney back then.
Did a lot of damage to the world.
Well, hold on. But at a certain point, we were in their country in Iraq. We were literally over oil. Let's at least be real about it. It's because we want to keep our homes at 72 degrees and we want to drive our SUVs while the rest of the world can just go to hell. And so, hold on. I'm on a roll. Hold on. I'm on a roll. I ain't stopping. Let me keep going. And so it does not surprise me, especially in a place like Iraq, where like 2 out of every 3 people knew someone who had died at our hands.
Yeah, that's true.
At our hands. And so they come over. That's where the empathy has to come in, people. Yes, 9/11 was horrific, but it didn't happen in a vacuum. We've got to have an understanding.
To compare 9/11, or like, look what Israel's doing with 10/7. They're calling this little thing that, these Hamas guys came over as they're comparing it to a genocide.
Now, hold on. I agree, but please, I want my Christian friends to not misunderstand me. Muslim friends don't misunderstand me either. I am not here to bury Israel today. I am not here to bury the church today. But I am going to defend the misunderstood. Remember when I told you about the feral cats in my neighborhood, and if they come to my door, they're going to get food and they're going to get love? My heart is for the outcast and the misunderstood. And guys, here we are. So I've got to call out the bullies. And we have been the bullies, guys.
let's put the
Please.
brakes on for a second. Let's put the
Okay,
brakes on. Let's
go
not
ahead.
this is we don't this is not an argument. Let me say this. This part cannot be argued. Bob, the cats and the dogs are also suffering in Gaza. Okay?
Yeah, true.
That matters to people more than the Palestinian little children, Christians. And there's 1% Christians. The Christians are dying. Muslims are dying. But if the children and the babies and the infants and the sucklings and the women and the widows and the orphans don't matter, well, you know what? There are cats and dogs for all you out there, you know, Americans, Christians, whatever. If you're into pets instead of animals, there are pets there being slaughtered, by the way.
Sure.
But there are human beings being slaughtered in mass.
100%.
Bob, Israel doesn't want to stop, and the excuse is Hamas. Okay.
Well, they've already said they're not interested in a two-state solution.
Well,
They're not interested in a two-state solution. You got to be
that's why
kidding
they're
me.
propping up Hamas all this time, because Hamas gave them the ability not to negotiate with anybody, especially
Right.
Fatah in the West Bank. Most, you know, by the way, most Palestinians hate Fatah and they find them to be hypocritical and not hypocritical, but corrupt. Okay, and Israel made sure that they made sure that people believe that. Okay, and people can't. They're Palestinians are afraid to say the things that I say because Hamas. They again, Israel has helped to make sure that Hamas's ideology makes everyone feel like any kind of possible surrender or acquiescence or whatever to the reality on the ground is hypocrisy. Okay, and so our messaging is a mess. It's a mess. Okay, and because of the messaging mess from all sides, we are forgetting the most important thing here, and it isn't the Christians in America, and it isn't the Muslims in Arabia, okay, and it isn't all these other people that are outside of Gaza. It is those people in Gaza being slaughtered 24 hours a day, living in a nightmare. You know, you cannot.
What is the number right now of
It's
casualties?
over 30,000. When you add the missing, 8,000 missing, 24,000 dead. Now, of those 30,000, of course, there's 60 some thousand injured as well. There's 2 million displaced completely from their homes, okay, living in the streets, okay? They're starving now. All right? Diseases everywhere.
They don't have clean water.
Bob, forget that. Let's just talk about the psychological effect on the children that are alive.
I hear you.
Please, you Christians out there, I swear to God, if another Christian in America who doesn't empathize with what's happening in Palestine and in Gaza brings up Jesus is love, or the Bible is love, or Christianity is love to me, it's not going to go well. There ain't no love. You guys aren't showing the love. I'm sorry. And if this end time eschatology is why you can't love, I just find me Jesus saying that when the end time comes, don't love those Palestinian kids because they're Amalek. Okay, Bob, I told you I want to talk about the theocracy. Look, every Jew.
Whoa. I just want to acknowledge the moment you just had. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
The theological vantage point is relevant, and it's even relevant to secular Israel's inception, because secular Israel's inception, even by atheist Jews, Zionists, okay, secular Jewish Zionists who absolutely despised Orthodox Judaism, they still felt it was some kind of a God-given right, some kind of this is somehow Israel's supposed to be there for the Jews because of 3,000 years ago and whatever it might be. Fair enough. The problem with that is now we move into the 21st century and you've got radical Judaism, radical Zionist Judaism. This is a very serious issue, and this is what I meant when I said we're entering into a new era, because radical Zionist Judaism has taken over the Israeli government. They have taken over. They are helping to manifest a lot of authoritarian governments around the world, especially in the West and especially in America. They are siding with the authoritarian types in our country, okay? The nationalistic types, the Christian nationalists, and so on, all over Europe and all over in America as well, and in Canada. This is a serious phenomenon. These people now, when I talk about Amalek, when I talk about the book of Samuel or the texts that are in the Jewish Bible, they don't see them the way you see them, and they don't see them the way I see them, and they don't see them the way a lot of Orthodox Jews who understand them better than these people see them, which is Those tribes, those pagan tribes that existed 3,500, 3,300, 3,100, 3,000 years ago, up until 2,500 years ago, whatever it was that their existence, last. These were pagan tribes. They did not believe in the God of Abraham. They believed in pagan gods. They did pagan rituals. They lived pagan lives. They sacrificed their children. They did crazy things. They were against God and against the people of Israel, God's people at the time, and they are no longer around. When you rabbis, when you Zionist Orthodox rabbis, when you extreme members of the cabinet in Israel, when you extreme members of the media, when you extreme members of the Christian right, Zionist, evangelicals, equate God-fearing, God of Abraham fearing, monotheistic, non-pagan, Arab Palestinians living in Palestine, living in Gaza, who wear hijab, who are circumcised, who don't eat pork, who don't drink alcohol, who pray to God the same way the Israelis pray to God, that what they did. These are monotheistic, non-pagan tribes. These are not Amalek. If you keep teaching that they're Amalek, just like the prime minister did twice on Israeli air, twice, Bob, not once, twice, okay? And he brought up the Israeli soldiers and the good work they're going to do and the fight they're going to fight against Amalek. These poor little Palestinian kids are somehow 3,000 years ago Amalek, somehow. And you want to act like that's not relevant. Well, guess what? It is relevant because they believe that. You have rabbis in America today teaching it. I can put it on your air if you want. Rabbis in America today teaching that, not just in Israel, in America, teaching. Right. Those Palestinians are Amalek. You know who's Amalek now, according to these rabbis? Anybody who opposes the state of Israel and trying to fight the state of Israel and opposing the state of Israel's Jewish domination, sovereignty, is Amalek. It's really easy now. It's just easy. Man, just be against Israel, you're Amalek. You know what I mean? And they can slaughter you down to the suckling. They can those infants that died in that hospital on incubators. It's okay. No sweat. No worry. We're good. God loves us. We can do that because they're Amalek. So don't tell me it's not relevant, Bob. It's very relevant because what they're doing, the Muslims have never done. Right. And not even the extreme Muslims, not even nobody. You know why? They couldn't find scripture that says that in the Bible, in the Quran. But they can find scripture that says that in the Bible. Let me repeat that. You cannot find scripture that says that in the Quran. The Quran is explicit about killing, explicit about unjust killing, explicit if you kill one civilian life unjustly, one innocent life. It's as if you've killed all mankind. If you save one life, it's as if you saved all mankind. Give me a Christian Palestinian kid right now and tell me, we're going to take all of Palestine, all of Jerusalem and Aqsa, and we'll let you take this kid. But if you don't let us take the kid, I mean, if you want Aqsa and Palestine, then we're going to kill the kid. I'll say, give me the kid. That's Islam. These people believe, according to scripture, that it's okay, both Jews and Christians. That's why we have an existential problem on earth. That is why it's a new era. They are manifesting what they believe with real military power.
Let me ask you a question. Because we do see vengeance and for lack of a better term, revenge. We see it through, but hold on, we do see it through a different lens. With citizens, well, is there justification for then doing what has been done to them back again to Israel?
Wait. Who are we talking about? The Muslims?
Yes.
Never. The Muslims the only time you have to fight fire with fire is to get them to stop. Just stop killing women and children. Stop it. You cannot keep killing women and children. The Prophet Muhammad was explicit. So was Omar. So was Abu Bakr. And we're going to do this. The Prophet Muhammad made it clear when you go to fight in the cause of God, do not kill the elderly, the women, the children. Don't kill the animals. Don't cut vegetation. Don't destroy buildings. Okay. Don't kill the monks that are praying to God in their monasteries. Okay. The Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakr, Omar, all made this clear in the Quran. Every time they take a verse from the Quran, they never qualify it. They never continue reading. They never talk to you about who he was talking about, what the pagans were doing, and even the pagans, when God was very firm in the ayah of the sword, the verse of the sword that they all quote. It was very clear that when they repent, if they repent and surrender, and they don't want to fight, and they don't, leave them alone. Do not harm them. Okay, even the soldier, etc. I mean, Islam has no way. You cannot find provisions for Islam, just like the United States military determined, the Strategic Studies Institute of the Department of the Army, in the 50-page monograph that they generated, that there's no provision for terrorism in Islam. Zero. No suicide, no killing innocent civilians at all. Okay, at all. Eye for an eye, all these things that you like to talk about, fine.
And yet it has happened.
Because of politics.
I
Because of
understand.
politics,
Yeah,
Bob.
yeah, we're not going to blame.
What I'm trying to say to you that you
Thank
might
you.
be missing, yes, you might be missing. I don't want you to miss.
No, I'm not missing it.
The difference right now is mainstream Islam can always fight the ISIS of the world. We can always fight anybody that comes up with this violent killing civilian concept. We can fight it because we have the text to destroy them. We can slaughter those guys. We can rip them to smithereens, okay? But if you're an Israeli Zionist Orthodox Jew right now, looking at those scriptures, looking at the Talmud and the Mishnah and the Gemara, and you're looking at these books in their book, not even the Old Testament, they call it the Jewish Bible, okay? Their book, okay, the Tanakh, etc. They can justify their actions by those books, by the way they're reading them. If they can say those people if they can apply those pagan tribes, okay? Bob, you know what they say about Christians, right? Idol worshippers, and the Torah commands that you should kill them. Okay, I'm not saying Jews. Now let me qualify the statement. There are many good Jews, many good Orthodox Jews, many good Israeli Jews that are. Judaism isn't this. Okay, this is not Judaism. This is radical Zionist Judaism. Okay, and so we have a problem because it's not like Western leaders are saying it's wrong. Tell me the Western leader, I'll let you take over the mic. Tell me the Western leader that has stated that it was wrong for Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, okay, to equate the Palestinians in Gaza to Amalek twice, and the actual Secretary of the Defense to say we're going to cut off food, water, fuel, and all that. Name me one prime minister, one Western leader that made that an issue and spoke about it.
Well, South Africa comes to mind, but
it's not a Western.
That's not really a Western nation, is it?
Yeah.
Although it's a Westernized nation.
But now it's a heavily Africanized nation.
I understand.
So name me one.
Question. Hold on. Hold on. As we are wrapping up, because we have to wrap up.
Yes, it's okay.
I have this feeling that we're going to have to do another one.
Sure, but I want you to name one, because if you can't say none, Bob, my friend, man with a heart this big.
Hold on. I'm not defending anything here.
On that.
Do you see me defending? But I do have a pushback question for you. And I want us to kind of go out on this note. You mentioned that it's extreme fundamentalist Jews that read scripture a certain way and justify what they're doing, correct?
Yes. Can I qualify that?
Hold on. Are there extreme fundamental Muslims who can do the same atrocities? Yes or no?
Yes, except you just missed the point I made. We can easily dismantle extreme Muslim, the people that want to go out and do these kind of, let's say, terrorists.
But Emad, there are people dismantling the crazy folks that are crazy Zionists all the way out there. There are people that are speaking against it. But hold on, you had to petition your own ruling body.
Oh, they were antithetical to what they were doing. They just didn't rule on it. But
I understand. But
when they ruled on it,
hold on. But they did. But you had to push them. So don't act like. Hold on. Don't act like this is all one-sided.
It isn't. I didn't say it's one-sided. We're talking about one area, Gaza, right now. We're talking about one thing.
I got you.
I said I denounced ISIS and Al Qaeda, and now I'm saying there's problems with Hamas. Okay,
Right.
the problem with Hamas leadership. Okay, leadership. All right, because the Hamas rockets, that's a self-defense tactic. Okay, that's not terrorism. I'm sorry, Israel can say it's terrorism all day long. What they do is terrorism. What they do is they terrorize the Gazans every freaking day of their lives. But here's the point I'm trying to get to you. When you have in Scripture verses that are explicitly, clearly understood, like kill them all of them, including the animals, ox and everything, okay? And you have a backup source, which is the Orthodox oral traditions, that if you misinterpret that it's literal. It's
I
literal.
get it. I get it.
So you've got a lot of Israel, just like a lot of America, has been brainwashed. So you got monetized media. Other than Haaretz, everybody else is pretty much in line with IDF and Netanyahu right now. So of course, Israeli people aren't seeing the truth, just like a lot of us aren't seeing the truth. Okay, so that plus there's a lot of Jews that have they can't help but side with Israel. It's hard for them.
Of course.
Right? And so, but
It's
they
their
have
identification. It's their
but there
people.
are other Jews that are seeing not in our name, not just Jews that are against Zionism, just against what Netanyahu and the extreme right and the extreme theocrats are doing. That it's too far, too much. There really is a genocide taking place right now. It is unfair. This is too much. You got the things you guys are doing. Like, come on, Bob, please. Occupation isn't easy. If you were occupied for one day, believe me, you would hate it. Okay. And when the more brutal an occupation gets, and the less the Western powers around the world and all their media infrastructure and all their bureaucrats and all of their politicians do not tell the truth about it, the more we keep arguing. Something that if you just walked into West Bank, God knows you don't want to walk into Gaza right now, because it is what's the word? It's not just apocalyptic. I mean, it's something you don't want to see. My friends and I agreed that only the most, this is the worst thing that's happened in the last 100 years. It's not, World War II doesn't equate. World War II, you can't compare it, other than the Holocaust, where they just took Jews and started exterminating them, or Nagasaki and Hiroshima. That is more because they slaughtered everybody in one instant, okay? And the other one was systematic over years, the Holocaust. Those are three events now.
And the numbers are a little bit higher in World War II.
No, that's not the point. No.
It is my point.
You're wrong.
It's my point.
You're wrong. Here's where you're wrong. World War II took years with armies, with nations.
I understand. It was
mostly soldiers dying.
I understand it was systematic.
Yes.
However, there was an agenda. There was an agenda.
Yeah.
A governmental agenda. Hold on. Oh my gosh, Emad.
There's no two sides to this.
Hold on. Just hold on. Hold on, because I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to give you 1 minute. Hold on. I'm gonna give you 1 minute to tell us how we can heal this. Okay, so think about that. But here's my point. My point is that systematically, there was the murder of a people group and the numbers, and I don't care if it took several years. The numbers are enormous, and they are incontrovertible. They're incontrovertible unless you're a Holocaust denier, and I don't know you to be that.
You're making no sense in what you just said. None of that was logical.
And I guarantee you the people watching know exactly what I just said.
Well, then let me answer that. Let me answer that another way. I just told you what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki was unprecedented. No one has ever had that happen in the entire history.
Because it was instantaneous.
Right. Hundreds of thousands instantaneous. That was the only thing they didn't do was suffer.
Understand.
Okay. What happened in World War II, what the Christian nations, what European Christianity and the Christian nations did to the Jews in World War II was unforgivable.
Correct.
Okay? Literally unforgivable. Now, unfortunately, what the Christian nation, European nations decided to do was to make the Muslims pay for it. Okay? The Muslims, Arab had to pay for their sin, which was they tried to exterminate the Jews in Europe. Okay, well, thank God for the Jews that they had been living in Muslim lands for centuries, most of them. And so they weren't all in Europe, thank God, because the Muslims never did this to them, ever. In their entire history, the Muslims never tried to blot out the Jews. Okay, thank God for that. Okay, so the Jews were fortunate for them. They were in Muslim lands, so they were safe. Obviously, when the state of Israel was created, many of the Arab countries got upset and they deported the Jews. That was wrong. But that's what happened. There was this mass exodus of Jews out of Muslim lands to the state of Israel. Okay, but they were where? In Muslim lands, living, not dying, not being slaughtered, not being killed, not being killed because they were Jews.
I
Clearly,
understand.
they weren't. They
Okay,
weren't being killed. Okay.
we've got to wrap up. 1 minute. Give me
Yes.
1 minute of
Oh,
how
what
we heal
happened
this.
in the Holocaust was a travesty, but
I
it
just
was a systematic travesty. How many people they actually killed? I don't believe 6 million. I don't believe 8 million. I don't believe two. I don't know what it was. It was a number. It was a bad number. It was horrible. It was the worst thing that could have happened to one particular people in Europe. Okay, maybe in its history. I agree to that totally. Okay, but what we're seeing in broad daylight, because when Netanyahu's government is trying to equate all these bad things that happen in wars. That's why we can do what we're doing in Gaza. You know, Bob, don't fall for the propaganda. They control the entire region. They control from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea. Their military is in control. There is no military in the West Bank. There's there's just a militia group in Gaza that Israel has propped up.
give me 1 minute on how to heal
Yes.
this planet.
Hey, but I got to say this. You cannot not let me qualify this. It's not fair to the Gazans. It's not fair.
All right.
This is wanton slaughter in broad daylight. Everybody worth its weight as a reputable institution out there, a body out there, has stated this is the worst case of genocide we've seen since World War II. The worst case. And the people are dying faster than any other time in our history. We don't have children. We don't have 10,000, 11, 12,000 children die in 3 months, Bob. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen with Russia and the Ukraine. It didn't happen in World War II. In World War II, it didn't happen. This speed that this is happening should scare the hell out of everybody. That's why a lot of people are scared.
The speed is stunning. I'll
It
agree.
is-
Give me
and
1 minute.
still-
Give me 1 minute.
Still, Israel has to still check itself because of the world. So there could be going a lot faster.
How do we
Okay.
heal?
So, how we heal is we start to realize we are being lied to. Truth is looking like falsehood. Falsehood is looking like truth. You know that I could just tell you the story of Omar in the 7th century with Jerusalem, the same Jerusalem, okay, where not a drop of Jewish or Christian blood was spilled ever. Nobody was forced converted, nothing. So to just stop believing the lies. Now, the other thing is the Western nations have shown what they've taken off the mask. Money and power is far more interesting to them and far more valuable and control, right? And strategic control and all that than any human life, especially in the South and in the global South. Okay, so we know now that greed and power and money and control and influence is what's running the day. And that's why you don't have a single Western leader. You don't have any of these media outfits stating the truth, whether it's Netanyahu quoting Amalek, whether it's all of them saying that we should flatten Gaza, we should kill all these, there's no innocent civilians, or whether what's happening on the ground in broad daylight. And thank God for the Palestinian journalists who are being slaughtered in mass more than any other time in history. Over 100 journalists have been killed already. They're showing us what's going on, and yet there's denial, there's lies. They're lying through their teeth. Trudeau and Biden and everybody's just lying through their teeth, Bob. So we gotta stop falling for their bullshit lies. We can go into the entire region, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, all the lies, okay? Yes, great. We got some bad people on the Muslim side, but the real bad people are the ones in power, okay? That are controlling those countries, that are controlling the narrative, that are lying to the people. So once we get get that thing off of us, right? Then we can have good dialogue and good conversation, because most people are good. Christians are good. Jews are good. Muslims are good. The masses are good. The majorities are good. We want good. And so if we can get the lies out of our way so that we can have honest discussion and dialogue, I can prove to you easily that Islam does not allow killing of innocent civilians. And Jews can tell you we don't believe in it either. And our Torah teaches that we shouldn't do that. And so Christians can teach what you just mentioned, which, vengeance and all that. Yes, I agree. Good, pure Christianity is a peaceful, very nonviolent movement, okay? But we're allowing liars to lie, dividers to divide, okay? And these groups are getting more extreme, Bob. They're creating problems for the rest of us. So instead of pointing fingers at our extreme element, right? I'm not talking about extreme Christianity. I'm talking about people in power.
I am too. All right, so let's wrap this up because I literally am up against it.
Gotta go. It's 3:15. That was our call.
Yeah, we got to run. Let's do this again.
We need to, because we just felt like the entire time. We didn't
Oh
have to
my gosh, yeah.
fast.
Yeah, and so let me say this. we are not in lockstep. That anybody that just watched this knows you and I don't agree on
Not that
everything,
far apart.
but that's okay. I need everybody watching this to understand that this man sitting next to me, and he's via Zoom. We're not in the same room, but he is on this hand of one of my dearest friends on this planet. And I love him like a brother. And listen, there's nothing that will ever shift that. And it's not a requirement to be in lockstep to love. If there's any message I want to get out, it's that we don't have to agree on everything to love each other.
That's a great message.
So let's go.
And I know your heart. I never question your heart. I know
I
what you
know
want.
that.
And I don't think you're naive. I just think you're sometimes too optimistic.
Oh, I'm always optimistic. You're not gonna beat that out of me. Sorry.
And lastly, we really do need to push aside the people that are trying to control the narrative. That way we can talk in open air, free, free,
Yeah.
free from their lies. Let's just talk
Okay.
free from their lies. That's it.
Let's
If we
talk about that.
if we keep bringing up their lies, we just busy
Let's
ourselves.
start right there. And what do you say, Emad? Can we do another one of these next week?
Yeah, we should. We should follow this
Let's
up
go.
in the second episode.
Let's go. People, guess what? We're back.
We're back. We're back with a vengeance.
Apparently. Ahmad, I love you. Be
So,
well, my friend. My best to your family. And
Mr. Danette, congratulations to both of you. You're both wonderful people. You deserve a wonderful life, and I pray
appreciate
for
that.
you're going to get it.
Here we go.
All
It's
right,
all gonna be okay. That's
um,
my message.
but let's first start by removing the suffering and the death from the people in Gaza. And let's
Oh
pray
yeah, guys. Just have your eyes open and pray and be aware of what's happening around you. And
for God to stop the killing.
where we can make a difference, let's make a difference. I mean, Ahmad and I have said from the very beginning when we started doing this years ago that we just want people to stop killing each other.
Yeah, don't pray for the death of any innocent Jews,
Please.
Christians,
Oh
Muslims,
no.
humans on this earth. No one wants to see innocent people
No. Oh
die,
my gosh,
ever,
no.
ever, ever. It's as if you've killed all of mankind, and if you save one innocent life, it's as if you've saved all of mankind. Think about that. That's real. It's in the Bible and in the Quran. We need to save lives. We need to save lives. We need to save lives.
I'm leaving it right there. Ahmad, God bless you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Bless
Hey
you too.
guys, thanks for watching. Get at us if you got any comments or questions. We'll answer.
You will.
All right. Be well.
You will. You too, Bob. Thank you. Be well, everybody. God bless you all.